There's still a lot of mysteries still left unsolved when it comes to the Playtime factory. Not only were they able to bring toys to life, but they might have created the most dangerous weapon in human history. The reality is, CatNap's gas poses a dangerous threat, and it might not be the harmless hallucinogenic it appears to be. CatNap is known by many names. Perhaps you know him as Experiment 1188, or even Theodore Grambel. Whatever the case, CatNap is an infamous member of Playtime Co. Originally, he was created as a toy meant to help children sleep. However, he was quickly recalled because of a non-lethal gas he released from his mouth. Playtime Co.'s idea was to release a toy that would emit a substance unbeknownst to the parents. Children in the general public had their hands on that toy, and parents shared some weird side effects. It was stated in the news that every child who was suffering from nightmares each had a CatNap doll by their bedside. Parents across the country report their child experiencing strange and often violent nightmares, and beside them, their little grinning CatNap doll. CatNap was a doll marketed to help his friends sleep. Children could look at CatNap's wide smile and be comforted. However, its friendly demeanor and soft fur had the opposite effect on children. When the gas was released from CatNap's mouth, children who breathed it in would experience nightmares. But not just any regular nightmares, violent ones. This same VHS shows us a visual demonstration of how the CatNap doll works. When users pull its tail, the doll lets out a small cloud of gas. The gas is so light in color that if you're not looking closely, you can miss it. But think about it. If this little bit of gas is enough to affect children with nightmares, what about the red smoke we see from CatNap's larger counterpart in the game? Let's take a look at this VHS one more time. At the very beginning, viewers are met with a short cartoon featuring the smiling critters. The critters are scared to fall asleep because of a nasty windstorm outside. That is until CatNap knocks on the door. They all shoot up with glee, frantically calling out for CatNap to help put them to sleep. This frenzied behavior is anything but child-friendly. From this scene, we learn that the red gas is highly addictive and sends, at least the smiling critters, into a hysteria. As the animation plays on, the camera zooms in on CatNap, who releases a puff of red smoke from his mouth. All of the critters cheer excitedly and begin to laugh. Then the camera pans to the group, who is now sprawled across the room, unresponsive. All but CatNap sits on the couch with his signature big smile. The red smoke spreads throughout the room and engulfs the smiling critters. It is the complete opposite of the CatNap doll, whose radius is very small in comparison. So what exactly is this menacing gas really made of? And is the red smoke and regular gas different? The distinction between the two may help us figure out the secret behind how it works. Let's recall what we've learned so far about the gas. In both instances of the clear gas and the red gas, they create nightmares and hallucinations. The red smoke, however, is highly addictive, more potent, and stretches bigger in radius. The effects of it are also more dangerous. To understand what this gas could be made out of, we need to take a closer look at the red smoke and what it's used for in Playtime. The larger version of CatNap is known for being the guardian of the Home Sweet Home section of Playcare. This is where the orphans, more importantly members of the Bigger Bodies initiative, were held. In 1990, CatNap was improved to be able to administer the red gas from his mouth directly to the kids. He was likely selected because of his docile and kind nature as a child. On his info card, CatNap is described as a calming presence for the critters and ensures he and his friends always have the right amount of sleep to jumpstart the morning's play. End of the day, there's nothing CatNap enjoys more than watching his friends sleep soundly. CatNap was able to provide a kind smile and warm presence to the children of the Bigger Bodies initiative. They had no problem trusting him to put them to sleep. Of course, through the use of the red gas. The version of the red smoke that the player interacts with in Poppy Playtime does more than just put people to sleep. We see one example of this in Claire Harper's debrief VHS tape. In it, we only see an image of a red gas mask, likely symbolizing the dangerous qualities of CatNap smoke. Harper describes the situation in the VHS tape as being peaceful while CatNap's red smoke is in the room. This changes, however, when she suddenly hears a loud scream and notices one of the orphans, Marie Payne, is having a nightmare. This orphan was of course experiencing something never seen before. Marie's pupils were dilated and her lips were quivering as she looked around the room wildly. Marie claims to have seen a colorless monster, which causes her to move about in a frenzy. This gas is no longer causing simple nightmares, but frighteningly detailed hallucinations. But how did it get this far? We find out some enlightening information in Elliot Ludwig's office. Elliot Ludwig is the founder and owner of Playtime Co. His goal has always been to make children happy. However, when he suffers a tragic loss in the 1960s, this takes on a different meaning. Though we don't know for sure who Elliot Ludwig has lost, it's a common speculation that the mystery death is in fact his daughter. This would explain why children eventually became the main focus of Playtime Co.'s experiments. Could Ludwig have been trying to use the poppy flower to revive his daughter? In Chapter 2 of Poppy Playtime, the player can find a note labeled Experiment 814. It starts off by discussing the parameters of the experiment. A live rat was fed 3 times a day for 2 weeks straight. The rat was killed after the 2-week period and submerged in a mixture of preservative gel and poppy flowers. After a week, the rat was shocked with electricity to see if it could be revived. Unfortunately, the experiment was a total failure, and the rat remained dead. Now I know what you're thinking. What does this have to do with CatNap and the red smoke? Well, the red smoke uses a similar poppy flower mixture. Elliot says at the end of the note, "I believe in the potential of the poppy flower. Its unusual properties lead me to believe that the proper mixture and procedure could have life-altering properties. Perhaps something larger than a rat would yield better results." This is where experiments on larger subjects, like the Orphans of the Bigger Bodies initiative, begin to come into play. It's very clear that Ludwig believed in the use of the poppy flower and wanted to continue using it for future experiments. In fact, he's already used it hundreds of times before, 814 to be exact, as the note's title suggests. Let's take this a step farther. The red smoke is confirmed to be created in Playcare's gas production zone. Considering Playtime Co.'s extensive experience with the poppy flower, it would not be strange to assume some version of the ingredient is being used. Not to mention that the poppy flower itself is red in color. If you're not convinced, Elliot also mentions in the Experiment 814 note that the poppy flower has for a long time carried heavy symbolism. Could this be a hint by the developers to look at what the poppy flower represents outside of the game? These flowers symbolize sleep, peace, and death. The red smoke was originally meant to put the orphans in a peaceful slumber, but we know that this ultimately led to several deaths. The poppy flower is also worn on Remembrance Day to honor those who died in a world war. In a way, Ludwig's original use of the poppy flower in his experiments could be a way to remember the loss of his loved one. The red smoke is specifically using the poppy seed as one of the main ingredients. Have you ever heard the advice not to eat poppy seeds before you have to take a drug test? That's because poppy seeds from the opium poppy contain trace amounts of opiates. This breed of flower is the source of drugs like heroin and morphine, both of which have known side effects of drowsiness. The Latin term for the opium poppy means sleep-bringing. When we start to piece things together, it makes sense that the red smoke is able to induce sleep for the children because of the opiates in the poppy seeds. This has a lot of dangerous implications for the real world. Should this technology be let loose outside of Playtime, it wouldn't be long before someone decides to weaponize it. Or maybe someone inside the Playtime factory already has. Someone with the intelligence and lust for vengeance needed to use this gas on a global scale. Let me know in the comments what you think about CatNap's red gas. Will we be seeing it reappear in Chapter 4, or is this the end of it considering CatNap's death? Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Stay tuned for more Playtime content.